Hi, it's Michelle. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing the Canterbury Tales book tag, and I was tagged by the original creator, AJ Dunn, from AJ Dunn Reads and Writes. And I'm sorry if my voice sounds different. I have, for the last week, I have been sick with the flu, and I'm just starting to feel better, but I'm very congested, which is the difference in my voice. But don't worry, I will edit out any sniffing or sneezing or coughing that might occur. I've never read the Canterbury Tales. I would like to. I don't know if I'm going to ever get to it with my vast amount of TBR books. Number 1, the host is the character who relates the tales to the reader. He is large, loud, and merry. Recommend a mammoth book, over 800 pages, for March of the Mammoths. I've got a stack of some books next to me. I still don't have all my books unpacked. The Count of Monte Cristo is a book that I definitely recommend. Number 2, the knight stands for fighting, war, and bravery. Recommend a book with a courageous main character. I would have to say, now there's a lot of books that have a courageous main character, but the one that immediately comes to mind for me is Lily Bard from the Lily Bard series that Charlaine Harris wrote. I just think that she's pretty badass. You know, she went through abuse and decided to learn karate and decided to stare fear in the face. And it's not that she doesn't get scared, but she doesn't she doesn't let fear stop her. And I think that's pretty amazing. Number 3, the wife of Bath stands for marriage, sex, and arguing. Tell us about a book with a strong female character. I'm going to say Blythe from The Push. Blythe ends up having a baby and thinking there's something wrong with her baby, as far as thinking that her baby might be psychotic. And she is very steadfast in her beliefs, and to the point of even deciding whether or not she wants to get a divorce. And this book took place in a time when people didn't get divorced. And I think it would be so easy to just decide that there's something wrong with them, that they're crazy, and just try to sweep these thoughts about their child under the carpet, especially with the way that society would act probably towards a mother that feels this way. And the amount of courage that it took for this character to stay so strong in her beliefs, but also to do some of the things that she did in the book. Number 4, The Pardoner is all about ambiguity. Tell us about your favorite queer character. My favorite queer character is... these books are going to fall over all over the place. It would be Kara in The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. She is an amazing character who is very strong and very brave, and I absolutely loved her character. Number 5, the Miller is bold, blasphemous, and overturns conventions. Who is your favorite naughty character? I had to think really hard about this one. Naughty in what way? And I decided I think my favorite naughty character is Bridget Jones. I think there's 3 books in the Bridget Jones series. Bridget Jones is someone who is just not conventional, and she She's very obsessed with her weight to the point of being shallow, I would say. And in my opinion, I would love to only be 13 pounds overweight or whatever it is that she tends to be in the books. But it's an interesting look at how sad it is, how much some people really beat themselves up over how they look. But also she is just a very quirky, silly character. She's got very bad taste in men, which I guess most of us do in our 20s. And she's pretty promiscuous too, I think, right? So I thought, well, that's kind of a fun, naughty character. Number 6, the Prioress is modest, quiet, and compassionate. Recommend a book you don't hear much about on BookTube. There's a book that I think is so good. It's called While I Was Gone by Sue Miller. I have read this book multiple times. I really want to read it again. I haven't read it in quite a few years, 15 years maybe. It's about a lady named Jo who, she's got grown kids who have left the house, and she's entering her golden years, I guess you would say, with her husband. She's got a nice house. She's got a great dog. She's got the perfect husband. And she feels like something is missing. She gets a visit from someone from her past, and she starts really kind of remembering and dwelling on a little bit her youth. In her 20s, she had lived in a communal house, and a lot of crazy, dramatic things happened there. So she starts pondering who she was in her 20s versus who she is now, and what it all means. And I just thought it was a really beautiful book. The author she's one of those authors that really describes the beauty of the Northeast very well, and the beauty of the weather and the seasons and the trees and that kind of thing, which I personally love, because the author did such a good job of describing the Northeast, the house that her and her husband live in, just everything. I just feel like I was there. Even now, 15 years after the last time I read it, I still feel that book so much. I still remember it. And to me, that's the mark of a really good book, is years later, feelings that you had from the book or things you learned from the book are still with you. That's pretty epic. Number 7, the monk cares little for the rule of work and prayer. Tell us about an unconventional character. Eleanor from Eleanor Oliphant is completely fine. I love this character. I was very delighted to read about a character who struggles with anxiety and OCD. I can definitely relate to the anxiety that she experiences. And as someone who has an anxiety disorder, sometimes anxiety makes it hard to open up to people and to have relationships with people. I think it's easier to just stay to oneself. And I really enjoyed exploring relationships, friendships, her relationship with her mother, her work relationships, all of that with her. I absolutely love this character. Number 8, the Friar is all about confession. Confess to us. Have you read the Bible, Torah, Quran, or other religious text all the way through? No. No, I haven't. Number 9, the summoner is a lecherous and a drunk who tries to sound more educated than he is. Tell us about a book that sounded better than it was. I'm not going to make any friends with this answer. I'm going to say Malibu Rising. I did not think that book was anywhere near as good as it sounded. Number 10, the parson is poor but rich in thought and deeds. Tell us about a book that gave you more than you expected. I thought I had that book, but I don't see. Then again, I probably haven't unpacked it yet. The Last House on Needless Street. That book was so much more than I expected. I thought it was going to be a thriller. I thought that it would be a little bit creepy, that kind of thing. But this book took me down a psychological road that I was not expecting. And it really opened up my eyes to a broader understanding than I had previously had of a certain mental disorder. Number 11. The Squire stands for youth, beauty, and courting. What book did you fall in love with when you were a youth? A book that really resonated with me when I was younger, I'm going to say around the age of 12 all the way through high school, was My Sweet Audrina by V.C. Andrews. My Sweet Audrina is a very dark, gothic novel. Audrina goes through abuse, rape. She has PTSD. It's a very haunting, dark book. And I really do love books about overcoming abuse. And there's something about that book in particular that I found very healing. Number 12. The clerk says little, but his words are wise and morally virtuous. Tell us about a short book that made you a better person. Okay, this is so easy for me. I've probably mentioned it countless times by now. Follow Your Heart by Susanna Tamaro. This book was originally penned in Italian, and it was translated to English later. It was a bestseller in Italy. I don't think it was a bestseller here, but this book is about a woman who raised her granddaughter, and she has found out that she doesn't have very long to live. And so she writes a letter to her granddaughter about the different things that she learned in her life. She tells her some different things that she had never told her before about her mother, and then also how she feels about her granddaughter. And this book is the letter to her granddaughter. And I just think it's so beautiful. It's so poignant. I think the knowledge that elderly people have is something that is very important. And I originally read this book in my early 20s when I was going through a time when I was having a hard time being strong and going after the life that I wanted. And this book helped me leave the situation that I was in and go after the life that I wanted, the life that I'm now living. So this book is everything to me. Out of all the books I've ever read, this one is by far the most important one to me. I love this book. It's only 204 pages long. There's so many parts of this book that are underlined and highlighted. I'll read one to you just to give you an idea of the kind of book that this is. The easiest thing in the world to do when you don't want to look inside yourself is to find escape hatches. You can always make it someone else's fault. It takes a lot of courage to admit that the fault, or rather the responsibility, is yours alone. And yet, as I've said before, this is the only way to go forward. If life's a world we travel, it's uphill all the way. And that's just one of the passages that I have underlined, and I just randomly chose it, but this book is just so good. It's so good. Number 13, The Man of Law Upholds Justice and Knows the Law by Heart. What is a book you could not imagine rereading? I read this book called Shade by Chad Nicholas, and it was a very good book. It was a very deep book. It also takes a look into PTSD, which I love reading about, but it was so gory and bloody that I don't think I want to reread it. Maybe I will in 20 or 30 years, but I thought it was really good. And I want to read the next one, but I don't know if I'm going to read it again. Number 14, the Manciple provides the food. Recommend a series that you think is good from the first book to the last. I would say it would be the Kinsey Milhoney series by Sue Grafton. I think that series was good from the beginning all the way through to the end. There were books in the series that were 3 stars, 4 stars, and 5 stars. I didn't find any to be 1 or 2 stars. I have read some of the books in the series more than once, and I just think it's an amazing series. I love Kenzie's character. I love the other characters in her life. Number 15, the merchant deals in furs and cloth and is powerful and wealthy. Recommend a book with a powerful message or theme. The Giving Tree by Shel Silverstein. This is a really good book that delves into giving and receiving and what it means and when it can be too much. And I think this book means something different to different people. I think some people walk away with a different message than other people do, which I also think is kind of a beautiful thing. Number 16, the shipman is a wine-stealing rascal. Tell us about a side character who steals the spotlight. There's probably a bunch of other people that had this answer, and I'm not really going to go too deep into it because I feel like most people have probably read this book by now. I'm going to say Mr. Rochester and Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I think he really did steal the spotlight in that book. Number 17, the physician knows what ails you and can cure it. Tell us about a book that you consider a comfort read. The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. And I know this is one of the books that everybody feels very different about. I think people either love it or hate it. For me personally, it is a very comforting book. Number 18, the Franklin is not a vassal or a noble, but a free man. Recommend a book about freedom in any form. Okay. Oh, here it is. See, I just saw it. 1984 by George Orwell. This is a book about what it means to not have freedom. And I think it's a very good depiction of what freedom is, what it means to lose it. And I think everybody should read this book. Number 19, the Reeve is believable on the outside but lies on the inside. What book was different than what the blurb led you to believe? Everything We Didn't Say by Nicole Bart. The blurb told me that it was going to be a thriller about a woman who has to go back home and face the truth of an event that transpired when she was a teenager. However, the book actually read like a YA family drama, and I was very disappointed because it wasn't the kind of thriller that it read, that the blurb, it wasn't the kind of thriller that the blurb said it was going to be. Number 20, The Plowman is good-hearted and faithful. What book do you read over and over again? I got this book in college, and I have read it quite a few times. And one of the things that I love about this book is I can pick it up and just randomly read a chapter and get something out of it. I don't have to read the whole book. How many books can you say that about, right? This is Sophie's World by Justine Gardner. And basically, this book, in a very understandable way, gives a history of philosophy, gives a history of philosophy and what the great philosophical thinkers said. There's a little girl named Sophie who comes home one day and finds a letter in the mail with 2 questions on it. And those questions lead her down the rabbit hole of philosophy. And she keeps getting letters and writing letters to this mysterious person. And that's what the book is about. But if you're interested in philosophy, or you think you might be, I definitely recommend reading this. Number 21. The guildsmen are 5 men who act as a unit and stand for brotherhood or sisterhood. Recommend a book with a strong ensemble cast of characters. That would be the DIVA series by KRISTA Davis. I did a video about, oh, sorry, that was my cat hitting the the camera stand with his tail. I did an entire video about KRISTA Davis's DIVA series books and how much I love them. And one of the best things about the books is not just the protagonist, but the characters that she has around her. Number 22. The cook makes the food that feeds you. Tell us about a book that feeds your soul. Love, Lucy by Lucille Ball. This book is so good. I just love Lucille Ball, and reading her memoir in her own words is very valuable. What she went through, not just the life that she led and what she went through, but also how much of a pioneer she was for women in the film industry. And it feeds my soul because I feel like she's a friend of mine, or a friend I wish I had, or something. Like, I feel like I know her and I'm sitting down drinking coffee with her when I read this book. Number 23. The Yeoman Serves You. Tell us about a book that served its purpose, that did what you wanted it to do, but it wasn't great and it wasn't bad. I'm going to say The Rumor by Elin Hilderbrand. I thought it was enjoyable. It was overly dramatic and kind of silly, but it was enjoyable, and it was good. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was just, it was a good book. Number 24. The Second Nun talks about a saint's life in her tale. What book do you praise often? Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. This book spoke to my soul. I love this book. I think it's so good. It made me laugh. It made me cry. It made me question things. It helped me be less judgmental about certain things. It's really good. Number 25. The Nun's Priest is witty and doesn't take himself too seriously. Recommend a book that has a funny or witty main character. The Murderous Haircut of the Mayor of Bel Air by Philip Mottes. The main character, Danica, is, well, she's psychic and she's a barber. And when she touches people's head, she sees things that they have seen. This leads her down the path of trying to solve a murder because, well, truthfully, she wants the reward money, which I think is very honest. I think a lot of books are more politically correct than that, and they don't say that maybe somebody wants to reward money. Somebody's just such a good person, they're willing to put their life on the line to solve this crime. But she is just so funny and quirky. Her character is very flawed and human, and she goes down this path of trying to solve this murder without really knowing a whole lot about solving crimes. She's not a detective. She doesn't have any training. It shows, but it's just really good. And I just love her character so much. The author is going to be putting out a second book, and I'm really excited to read it. Number 26, tag some BookTube pilgrims. I'm not sure who to tag because I feel like everybody has done this one by now. This tag came out, I think it was about a month ago, and I just now have got around to it. I really don't know who to tag. It seems like everyone's done it that I know of. But if you haven't done it, please do it and let me know so I can watch your video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day or night. Happy reading. Bye.